Welcome to Horror Movie Massacre. This is Ray from the Horror Syndicate. Sorry, they changed our operating system here a little bit, and I'm that's why I have concerned eyes because I'm looking at everything. They changed it just from the other day, which is really kind of cool. But anyway, welcome to October. It's October finally, and everybody's favorite time of year. Mostly the people who don't watch horror year round like we do. Um, and this October, we're going to concentrate on some Hammer horror because we've never really gotten the opportunity to talk about it. And I love Christopher Lee as Dracula, and as it says in the description, this is the Dracula I grew up with, not Lugosi or Monster Squad or Gary Oldman or Leslie Nielsen or whoever. It was always Christopher Lee. My mom somehow had copies of these movies, and not all of them, just a couple of them. Curse of Frankenstein, Curse the Werewolf, and a couple of the Dracula movies, and I got to see them growing up a lot. I think they might have been bootlegs, to be honest, because my stepdad came home from Japan in 1990 with a bunch of tapes. We had a bootleg copy of Halloween, a bootleg copy of Jason Takes Manhattan, all kinds of bootlegs. Like, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm just outing myself. So anyway, so the horror Dracula's topic tonight. With me is Seth, and how you doing, Seth?
Not too bad. This is a good one to start off October with.
Yeah, it's I I watch this movie a couple times a year generally. I'm really looking forward to digging into the other ones because next on my list is Brides of Dracula, which is the follow up to this. Have you seen Brides of
I haven't seen
Dracula?
that one. I haven't
It
seen it, but I own it. So
Okay, yeah, definitely watch it. It's got Peter Cushing is, and it's a different kind of movie, and there's no Dracula in it at all. And I think the
yeah.
title's a little deceiving, but there's a good Dracula character in his. It's a really interesting movie. I'm curious to see what you think of it. And then after that, we start going on with movies like Taste the Blood of Dracula and Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. So many Dracula movies. There are, I think, seven with Christopher Lee, and then the seven golden vampires, which actually I like. It looks ridiculous because it's like ninjas and Dracula and all kinds of weird shit going on, but it's actually a pretty fun movie. I don't own it yet, but I know there is a Scream Factory out there. We've got some comments already. Scott Walker, hi Ray, how you doing today? I got several themes to talk about: werewolves, vampires, Scream movies, and other horror stuff. Like Killer Santa Claus. Well, that's not for this time of the year. So Killer Santa Claus is for later. Uh, I love the original Dracula films. Yes, Universal. We talked Universal last year or the year before that. I don't quite remember
It was
when that
last year, I
was.
believe.
Was it last year?
I think so.
Dracula. Dracula saw the
No, it
Christopher
was the
Lee
year
one.
before.
Yeah, it's because I think we just did it on the Discourse show.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd say so a lot of people call the Universal movies boring, but I enjoy them. I definitely think they're worth checking out, Sean. I don't know how you're going to feel about them, but I like them, and so does Seth. So well, quite a bit actually. Um, Great question. Out of all the actors who played Dracula, who do you think is the greatest Dracula of all time? What do you think?
Uh.
So we got, let's go through the list. We got Lugosi, Jack
hmm
Palance, Frank
hmm
Langella. We got
hmm
what's his name? With the mustache later on in the Universal run. I can't think of his name.
Oh, Carradine.
Yeah, yeah, not John, Peter, something Carradine. Then you got, of course, Christopher Lee. You've got Gary Oldman. You've got what's that guy's name from Dracula? The one that came out in 2014. Luke Evans. He played Dracula as
hmm
well. Leslie Nielsen played Dracula, as I said. My favorite is probably the Lugosi or Christopher Lee. Probably Christopher Lee. I love Christopher Lee. He's
I'm
actually like
gonna
my favorite actor. So
I'm gonna lean towards Christopher Lee because he played him multiple times.
He played him the most.
Lugosi only played him twice.
He did get
Once
to
in the
play
31
as
film,
a
and then
he did get to play as a
Adams.
Dracula type character two other times in Return of the
Yeah.
Vampire, and yeah, so Lugosi's great. I would love to see Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney played Alucard. Yeah, we talked about the Wolfman. We're gonna talk about Curse of the Werewolf soon. Yeah, good. Perfect time of year to do it, especially when it gets gray and cool outside. Perfect time to do it. Who was the actor to play Dracula in Van Helsing? And the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The Buffy the Vampire Slayer guy was awful. I can't even tell you his name. Richard Roxburgh, I think, played him in Van Helsing.
Yes. Yep.
Haha, I'm good. But he wasn't very good, in my opinion. I like that
He
movie,
was
but
like he was very over the top.
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, Scream's coming out in 2026. Oh well. That's all I can say. Oh well. We're lucky to be getting one. I think they should just left it at Scream 6 and moved on. So anyway, so this movie came out after The Curse of Frankenstein, which is a great freaking movie, starring Peter Cushing, which of course I probably both of us were exposed to Peter Cushing through Star Wars, I would assume.
Yeah.
I saw both of these probably about 1990, 91. Like I said, my stepdad, I don't know if I even told you that. I don't know if they sold these movies in the US in the 80s or 90s on VHS, but he came back with a bag full of VHS tapes, just full of movies. Like we didn't have a copy of John Carpenter's Halloween, we didn't have a copy of a lot of the Elm Street movies and all these different horror movies. And it's like, cool. I got, it's like rubbing my hands together. And then my mom was excited because he came home with a bunch of the Hammer movies. It wasn't all of them. It was Curse of the Werewolf was there, The Mummy, Horror of Dracula, and two of the other Dracula movies, but I can't remember which two they were. I think one of them was Satanic Rites of Dracula. And then the other one may have been Taste the Blood of Dracula. I'm almost certain because I've seen that one a lot. And then Curse of the Frankenstein's the only one that of the Frankenstein movies that he was able to get. But I did find that Blockbuster had some of the other Frankenstein movies after looking for them. So I was about 10 or 11 when I got exposed to these. And I mean, everybody knows Lugosi as Dracula. That's the when you say Dracula, I think that's who comes to mind, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
So and there's nothing wrong with that. Lugosi's great, but there's something about Christopher Lee as Dracula. He's suave. He can be charming, but he's very sinister at the same time, which I never got that feeling from Lugosi as much. Where Christopher Lee, like, he becomes a feral animal when the fangs pop out, and it's so great to see that. Which there are no fangs with Lugosi. But what about you? Because I know these weren't big in, like, when I was growing up. I didn't hear about them until my mom told me about them. When do you think you were exposed to the Hammer horror films?
Definitely when I was a teenager. So like, I grew up with the Universal monsters. I've seen the 1931 film a shitload of times. And then I even saw, the Francis Ford Coppola film, Bram
Yeah.
Stoker's Dracula, a lot as a youngster as well. And it was after I read the novel that I went to the video store, and there's an infinity amount of Dracula movies out there,
Oh yeah.
but like I was like obsessed with Dracula for a long time, and I went to the video store and I rented the Horror of Dracula, and then a couple years later I got this VHS.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wanted to bring these out. My copy of Dracula, pretty cool. And then I also have this. I don't know where it came from. Have you ever read that Dracula's Brood?
No.
Oh, it's my wife. It was my wife's. It says her name in here. Awesome. Yeah, I've never read it, but it's part of my collection as well. Which copy do you have?
I got this VHS.
Oh
I think it
yeah,
came in like
that's cool.
'98. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about when I
Um,
started seeing them pop up here. Well, yeah, that
yeah.
sounds about right.
And I remember too, like when I first watched it, I was a little confused, right? Because again, the 1931 film definitely took liberties and changed some stuff up from the book. Um, and then the Francis Ford Coppola film I thought was way closer to the book. I saw the Frank Langella film. I saw the Jack Palance film, stuff like that. And coming to Horror of Dracula, like I remember just being confused with all the changes because it's like, okay, so now uh, Jonathan Harker and and Abraham Van Helsing, they are working together from the start, and they know what
Mhm.
Dracula is from the start. And then Harker is like married to Lucy, who is the sister of Arthur, who is married to Mina, and like I was like,
I
this
know
is all wrong.
Well, Jimmy Sangster, the guy who wrote the script, I mean, I think that's almost an impossible task to
Mm,
to fit into such, like, because movies back then, as we know, it's like 75 to 80 minutes long, and they really gotta they really gotta fit a lot of content. And then I like what they did with Jonathan Harker, because it's like, okay, so he's arriving at Castle Dracula, like we know generally, but it turns
mhm,
it on its head. It's something different. We get something completely different, and you're like, oh shit, so he knows. It's not,
mhm.
the same old Dracula movie, which I actually really like.
I think a lot of the changes for this particular film work because I think this film just works. It's a very sort of like small, self-contained story. It keeps its focus on a couple of the characters, and you know uh, Peter Cushing is, as always, engaging in any role. I mean, this is my
Mhm.
second favorite Peter Cushing role, and uh, and I just think it just this film ultimately works for me. I think this is one of the two best Dracula films. Period.
Yeah,
End of story.
I mean, I like the way that the changes make the movie, uh like, I don't want to say faster, but I think the pacing is way different than what you get
Oh yeah.
in 1931 Dracula. And I also feel like the first act with Harker almost feels like a completely separate movie, but in a good way, because it sets everything up before they get to England, I guess is where they are. I don't know. Who knows? Because they never get on a boat and go across the sea, because there's a lot of liberties in this movie, more so than most. And if you have never seen this and you're a huge Dracula fan, I would probably say be ready for a lot of changes, because they're also missing characters, and Dracula's
Mhm.
hiding in the basement of their house. It's really cool. But Peter Cushing chews a lot of screen time, and whenever we finally get to see uh, Dracula and Van Helsing face off, it's so great. And I know that in I think the newer Blu-ray copies, if anything, they added more to that fight scene, especially Dracula's death itself, which they had to cut because English people can't take a little bit of dust. I guess, I don't know. Um, but yeah, I really love this movie. This has always been, and I've been saying this for years. Like when Christopher Lee started popping back up in things, because he was in things here or there throughout the 80s and 90s, but seeing him in Sleepy Hollow for a brief moment, that made me so excited, because I always loved the guy. And then when he got cast as Sauron in Lord of the Rings, I was on cloud nine. And then shortly after that, Count Dooku, which is a play on Dracula, I was like, I get my favorite actor, my favorite Dracula, in a Star Wars movie. Two of them, kind of. So that was I was pretty happy about that. Seth, do you remember last time we'll talk about the new Wolfman movie coming out next year? Do you remember what I told you not to get Lon Chaney's family's commission to remake? What do you think, Ray?
The, yeah, a couple weeks ago I talked about the Wolfman on the Werewolf Wednesday show,
Yeah.
and Scott says that they should have gotten uh, permission, I guess, from Lon Chaney's family. I don't think they really need it, but
To do
yeah.
what?
So he's just asking you about what you think about that.
I don't really care, honestly. I mean, I don't like the idea of if that thing that we saw a couple of weeks ago is what the Wolfman's going to look like in the new movie.
Yeah,
I would like a good makeup job. I don't think it needs to look like Lon Chaney because the 2010 movie didn't look anything like Lon Chaney. I'd like it to look like a cool looking Wolfman. That's it. I don't give two shits about Lon Chaney's likeness in this. I mean, I'm not trying to offend anybody or upset anybody, but I really don't care about that. I really care about a good movie and good effects. That's really all I care about. Um, I don't care about Lon Chaney. I mean, I like Lon Chaney as the Wolfman. He was fine, but I don't. Yeah, that doesn't do anything for me. This new Wolfman movie is going to be taking place in modern times, right? Like way more modern than I know Lon Chaney's did as well at the time, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even going to be the Larry Talbot story. You know,
there you
it's
go.
it's a
You
it's
don't need it.
it's a new set of characters. It's really going to be sort of like the Invisible Man from 2020, where it was
Which was
just like
great.
right. It was just they took the title, they took the last name of the antagonist, but everything else is completely different. It has no resemblance whatsoever to the H.G. Wells novel or the uh, the the James Whale film. So that's what the new Wolfman's going to be. Really, is it's going to be Wolfman title, and then it'll just be its own sort of new story, new characters, stuff like that.
So this question about a remake of Dracula, I don't want to call them remakes when it comes to Dracula. There's so many different Dracula movie adaptations. A new adaptation, I would say. I don't know because they'll probably have tall shoes to fill. As long as they don't make it an action movie like The Mummy. And I'm not talking about the 1999 Mummy movie. That movie's amazing. Right?
Yeah.
You love it, yeah.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, as long
But
as it's not that, I think it's gonna be fine. Nosferatu is gonna set the standard for any future Dracula movie. I have a feeling.
well, I really hope so because Nosferatu looks fantastic. But
Mhm.
like, I'm glad that the whole Dark Universe thing sort of like fell apart
I am
because
too.
I didn't want the action hero. I did I
That's
did like Dracula Untold. Um,
I did too. I
but
actually had a lot of hope for that though, especially with the
yeah,
ending.
but yeah, it was good. But like, I
That's
just hope
the
that
that was the name of the movie I was thinking of, like Luke Evans. I'm like, what's the name of that movie? Dracula Untold. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But like they really need to like stick to the horror aspects. Like
agreed.
I don't want to see this, PG-13 action film um involving these characters. I want, and it's been fun before, Van Helsing is fun, but like I just want a good R-rated horror Dracula, and I don't know what they could do, like because like you said, there's so many Dracula films,
Mhm.
so it's almost like uh, why even bother anymore unless you have
I
like
mean,
this unique angle, which I
I
do
wish
have.
that,
But
I, well, and I wish that they wouldn't have failed with Dracula Untold because it gave us like a backstory and then it goes into the future, which could have led up to what everything going on now. And the way Dracula is, I don't think I want to see a movie set in present times with Dracula, like the Wolfman, like Invisible Man. Also, going back to the Mummy for a second, I think the Mummy is a different kind of movie than Dracula. It's not a gothic horror movie. Where I feel like the Mummy could have been an action movie because it was terrible, but at the same time I can see why they would go that way because the original 1932 Mummy with Boris Karloff was fine. I actually am not a huge fan of that movie. I like the sequel. I think you're on the same page with me with that. Even the
oh,
1950 or what year was the 1959 Mummy movie with Peter Cushing just wasn't that great. So like the Mummy's tricky in my opinion. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, yeah. I think the like it worked for the 1999 film to do an
Oh,
action film of the Mummy
it was the right time
because
for that.
well, it was the right time for it, but also because Stephen Sommers knew the assignment. Now, say what you will about him as a filmmaker in general, whatever, but he loved the original Universal films, and it shows in the work because what the 1999 Mummy film is it's got the whole Emotep Anaximum story
Mhm.
that it's developing from the original 1932 film, but it's got the action adventure side from the Mummy's hand,
Yeah,
and so it's sort of like a love letter to, like, I would say probably to the first three movies of the original Universal Mummy films. Um, and it works. But what the 2017 Mummy film did was it carried on with the action side from the 1999 film, but without any love for the original, without any of the lore, and it was just sort of like this soulless effort. And again, it was just all about making this like shared universe because, ironically enough, Universal felt like they had to compete with Marvel for the shared universe thing, even though Universal had the original shared cinematic universe with their monster films.
almost 100 years before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we need shared universes all over the place. It's
No.
silly. And like they saw Marvel do it. Everybody saw Marvel do it. Oh yeah, let's do one ourselves. The Conjuring even
Yep.
has a shared universe. Wes Craven's werewolf movie Cursed. If you asked me, the wolf looks like a cross between Wolf of American Werewolf in London and Lon Chaney, Wolfie. I looked at the design of the creature. Well, it is a mix between one's a wolf man and one's a wolf, and then you put them together. I guess that's what you get.
Well, because I think the design for that film was from like the design before he got sort of booted in favor of CGI was from Rick Baker, I believe.
Mm.
So
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah, he got screwed over on so many werewolf films.
I think we're fine with the Larry Talbot storyline at this point, in my opinion, because we got a great film in 1941 and a great film in 2010. Like I'm curious to see what this new movie turns out to be. I
I think it
presumably,
has potential. The new
yeah,
film definitely has potential, and a part of me is like a little disappointed that they're not doing the Larry Talbot story, but at the same time, I'm kind of relieved, just in case it does suck.
you can stand on its own, just like Invisible Man. I think it's smart, But the thing is, when they get to Dracula, they can't not make it Dracula if they call it Dracula. That's his
Yeah,
name, technically. Um,
yeah,
but I think
based on a
that,
real figure.
yeah, going back to our topic, um, I don't even know where to go now. What was the last thing we said about this?
Jesus Christ, we were sort of like all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, oh, we were talking about uh, we were talking about how this film definitely took liberties with the story,
Mm,
and you mentioned you had a really good point too about the pacing, because
mm,
this is a good 82-minute long film, and it seems like in a small scale, but something's always happening. There's not many like long periods of time where there's nothing that's happening that kind of serves the horror of Dracula, so to speak, um, and um, and everything that's going on. And it's kind of propelled by this. I like the fact that it's sort of like propelled by the fact that in this version, it's literally it begins the catalyst is um, Harker and Van Helsing working together, already knowing what Dracula is.
Yeah, which I really like like when I went through because I saw right after this I remember I think it was AMC or some channel on Halloween, like a couple years after I saw this, they played all the Universal greats leading up to Dracula with Lugosi, and when I watched that, I was like, wow, this is way different, And I'd never read the novel, didn't read that till I got to high school, and then of course in '93, I guess it was probably the same year I saw the Universal version. I saw what I would call an epic, Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It gets more into the weeds of the book of Dracula. It's not a perfect adaptation by any means, but this movie almost feels like the Horror of Dracula feels like Jimmy Sangster read the book. It's like, okay, he took a highlighter. I want this, and then I'll put my own little mix into it, because I mean it's a big book.
And not to mention too, it's kind of a slow paced book. Like it's all told through journal entries, and it's very slow to get to the point. And it's a great book. I love the book. I've read the book so many times, but I feel like this movie just sort of like it just was like, okay, we got a limited amount of time to tell the story. We're gonna get to the point, and that's what this film does. And while again it does take liberties, I think it just makes for a really good and interesting take on the story.
Sorry, I forgot I had these headphones sitting here. I wanted to try the mic to see if it was any better than my audio. I heard it from the other night, and I was like, oh, it doesn't sound great. Why don't you guys think I should get on the family's permission to do a movie that actor played the part? I don't think that he owns his own likeness. That's probably why. I don't think the family owns the likeness of the Wolfman.
Well, okay, I would say like if they were gonna do something where they took the likeness of Lon Chaney himself, they would absolutely need to get permission. But to just do a new Wolfman movie, if you're not going to use the likeness, if you're not going to even use the Larry Talbot character, which he didn't own, he played Larry Talbot multiple times, and he was one of the only actors of the old Universal films to consecutively play a character in a row through multiple films, but he doesn't own the character. Universal owns the character, and as long as they don't do anything where they try to make the new actor look like him, you could just hire any actor to play this character, and it'll be fine. You don't need the permission. And who knows? Like another thing you got to consider here, Scott, is that you don't really know sort of like the behind the scenes, like did Lee Winnall kind of just go to the family to get their blessing anyway? You know what I mean? Because I mean that type of stuff happens sometimes. Writers, directors, producers, whatever, just out of a show of respect, will just go get family's blessing before they kind of do something that honors the character that they're tied to. But they don't necessarily need to get that permission.
Did they? I don't know. I've never even seen that movie.
I'm not sure if they had to. Like, I feel like if in that case, and I don't know if that's true or not, though. I think it was just a matter of respect,
But Robin Williams probably didn't own the rights to Jumanji.
Right.
I believe
exactly.
Hasbro did, so they don't.
Exactly. That's why they didn't have to. But if that did happen, it was most likely out of respect for his legacy.
really what it comes down to is Universal owns the rights to the Wolfman, not Lon Chaney's estate. So they don't have to go to Lon Chaney's estate to get permission. That's plain and simple what it is. Lon Chaney doesn't own anything that has to do with the Wolfman, and I think as well as the likeness of the Wolfman belongs to Universal, not Lon Chaney. That's why they don't have to do that. They can go to the estate for out of respect, but they don't have to. Does that make sense?
Yep. So anyway, Horror of Dracula.
Yes, it's Horror of Dracula. We didn't have time to do a score, which is okay. It's been I'm out of practice, obviously. Does this sound any different to you?
Nah, man, you sound the same.
Okay, I didn't think so. I'm gonna change it back. Tell me things you like and don't like while I fuck with this. Sorry.
Well, honestly, I like this whole film, and for a lot of reasons that I've already mentioned or that you've already mentioned, right? It's a little different, but it's fast paced. I think it's I think being small and contained works to his favor. So you don't have stuff in there like the whole thing with Dracula trying to acquire Carfax Abbey, stuff like that. You don't have the the boat ride from the Demeter, none of that stuff. But it's a very simple, to the point story. My favorite thing about this movie is Peter Cushing. His performance as Abraham Van Helsing is really, really solid. I like Michael Goff as Arthur. It's always weird to hear. Yeah, it's always weird to see him in this, and like, because like he's so young, right? But you hear the voice, and it's instantly recognizable. I'm like,
yeah,
this is Alfred Pennyworth, you know. And I think there's a lot of really cool scenes in this, and I mean, I will say this: probably out of all the Dracula films that I've seen, I like the final showdown in this the best. Like the moment where, like the whole chase between Van Helsing and Dracula is great, and then what happens in the house is fantastic. I love the moment where Van Helsing jumps up onto the table, runs across it, and like leaps onto the curtains and pulls them down. And then he grabs the two candle things to make a cross, and just like the dissolving of Dracula's body. Just really cool ending.
I love that actually. That's such a somewhat iconic image, in my opinion, is Peter Cushing holding the two candlesticks, as the cross. To me, that was always an image. Like, trying to think. Before that, I don't think I remember ever seeing. I mean, we've all seen vampire movies. I'm trying to think if there's any other movie that they do that in. What movie is it they use the tongue depressors?
Oh, Fright Night.
Fright Night, yes. But you don't see that very often, and I wonder if that's the first instance that you get where somebody makes a cross out of two different objects, which is so cool. Don't be sorry about that. I'm just trying to let you know. That's why I don't care about the likeness stuff, is because it's Lon Chaney. They don't own the rights to the Wolfman. I don't even know if Universal technically does, if they have to pay for it or what.
No, Wolfman is 100% Universal's property, because it wasn't based on a book or anything. It was.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It was developed. It was developed for Universal. I don't know if Kurt Siomac's family could potentially try to get the rights back through that loophole, but
well, I think probably Gary Oldman's Dracula would probably be the strongest. I would assume. Who do you think is the strongest out of all the Draculas over the years? Christopher Lee's is not. I mean, he gets stopped by running water in one of the movies, a stream in a thorn bush. He gets stopped by a lot of easy stuff. So,
Gerard Butler.
oh, I forgot to mention him. Dracula 2000, yo, underrated.
Yeah, I dig that movie. It's fun.
I love it. Been watching Harry Potter for a very long time. You think Voldemort looks like a Dracula type? Well, he's a more of a reptilian type of character, but sure. I mean, he's a bad guy, but he uses magic. I don't know. I'm not a big Harry Potter guy.
I think he's got more of like a Nosferatu type look.
That's true. He does. Like I said, I'm sorry. I read on the internet. No, it's fine. I'm explain. I don't really read much about Lon Chaney's estate and the Wolfman. I'm not a big werewolf guy. We were talking, me and Nate, before the show the other night. We were talking about zombie movies and how many different zombie movies are. And I was like, oh, I got to make a list of my top 25. I can't even get to my top 25 werewolf movies because I don't think I've seen 25. So, and the Wolfman probably accounts for 5 or 6 of my werewolf movies. So, and those are the old ones and the 2010 movie.
Well, I mean, I got you covered on that. Oh, I just want to correct myself. The tongue depressors, I think that was Salem's Lot, not Fright Night.
That makes sense. Yeah, yep. Because of the hospital scene. Yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I just watched that. How could I? I can't wait for that. By the way, the new Salem's Lot.
New one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I know. I wish I wasn't having trouble with my fucking HBO Max account.
What's wrong with it?
I can't. It keeps sticking me around. I can't log into it. I've been wanting to watch The Penguin, and of course, Salem's Lot's coming out. It's like now that all these things are coming out that I want to.
It's this week.
Watching me. Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, Thursday.
I can't wait. I can't tell you how uninterested I am in The Penguin. Like, I know Nate's loving it and everything, but I am just not interested in watching it. Like, you know, I know these are 3 movies and done. If this was like the Batman that was going to be going on and to see the new Superman, James Gunn's Superman movie, I'd be all in. But I just cannot tell you how uninterested I am in that. There's another thing
funny
watching that they're very interested in that I have no interest in. Oh, I can't remember what it is though. What?
Well, the new, you know, because James Gunn said that all the DC stuff is going to be all the new stuff is going to be sort of like connected between animation, film, stuff like that for the DCU.
Mm-hmm.
So they just announced today a new animated film with Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. It's going to be co-produced by Matt Reeves. It's not going to be tied to it's allegedly not going to be tied to the Matt Reeves world, but the fact that Matt Reeves keeps getting involved with all this DC stuff, it makes me think, is there any behind the scenes stuff that's happening where Gunn and Safran are kind of like talking him into, hey, maybe after you do the Batman 3, we can include your version into this world, and then maybe they can give Andy Muschietti a different project to work on. Just my thought.
Or show him the door. I feel like
I mean, I rewatched the Batman last week, and I fucking love that movie. And that's why I'm like super excited.
Well, I also feel like Pattinson's Batman, just based on his look alone, and it is a great contrast to Corn Sweat's Superman. So I think that would be they would look great together. So Trekpedia said that he's having trouble with his Shutter. I haven't had a problem either. I just watched Suicide Squad, the James Gunn movie. By the way, I love that movie, and I would love to see a movie that is Bloodsport and Peacemaker together. That I want that really bad. But yeah, I haven't had any problems with mine so far. I would like a werewolf movie and a vampire film where the werewolf from the movies we watch and the vampires we watch as growing up. Like a bipedal werewolf versus a vampire. I would be in for something like that. Not like Underworld
Well, I was gonna say you got the Underworld films. You got, I mean, even that's like in Van Helsing.
Well, the CW is a fucking joke. So they got rid of all of their superhero stuff so they can produce bullshit, and they're trying to make more sports content. So,
and it's weird. The weird thing about that too is like Superman and Lois is actually very highly rated. Like it got the ratings. Like there's a reason why that show continued on. It's
well, I
fairly
mean,
popular.
the CW was well known for making the Arrowverse shows, and then one by one they kind of fell, and it was left with that. But I've read to this thing that they're trying to get more and more sports content because broadcast television's failing. Where something like Superman and Lois would probably perform well on Max or something like that versus on the CW. In my opinion, that's what I think. But
Yeah, well, because Next Star came in, they bought the CW, and because the CW beforehand wasn't making any money. But I mean, I got to just throw this out there. I am super pumped for next Monday because of Superman and Lois. The final season is beginning.
As soon as it's over, I'll finally try to finish watching it. Yeah, that you're gonna keep dreaming on this because there's so many studios involved to get something like this made. That's likely never gonna happen. Yeah. Nice thought though. Yeah. So anyway, so what do you think about any of this? I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this movie that we haven't already said. It's I love this movie, and this is one of those that I could put on anytime. The Horror of Dracula, and it's some of the other ones. I gotta watch this before I watch the other ones. But have you seen? What I wanted to ask is, which ones have you seen? Haven't seen? Do you know offhand?
Of the Dracula films?
Yeah, the Hammer Draculas.
Yeah, so I've seen all the ones with Christopher Lee. The one that I haven't seen is The Bride's. This is actually my Scream Factory copy. It's still wrapped. I haven't even opened it. So I'm looking forward to checking this out. I've been meaning to. I just keep forgetting about it.
This is what the other one looks like. The other poster looks like in there. Because cool. I can't stand that. That doesn't even look like the character that's in the movie.
Oh, really?
The guy in the front, yeah. That vampire guy, that doesn't even look like, that's not how he looks in the movie at all.
Yeah.
I flipped it around. It's interesting. I like it. Prince of Darkness is a lot of people's favorite. It's just okay for me. I like some of the, like, Taste the Blood's a really good one.
I really like Prince of Darkness, but I also really like Scars of Dracula. But that was like one of the, like, other than Horror of Dracula, that was like the other Christopher Lee film that I watched the most when I was younger.
Scars is set in the 70s, isn't it?
What's that?
I think that one's set in the 70s. No, that's Rights of Dracula.
I wish I could tell you what happened. I think, if I remember correctly, Scars of Dracula is like the most violent out of the Hammer Dracula films, I believe. It's like the bloodiest.
Let's see here. All right, so you got. By the way, check this out. Dracula. You see the case?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a DVD or what is it called? HD DVD case. So it's like blood red.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good choice.
I found it at Dollar Tree. I was like, hey. And you got the next one. This is a mine. It's Prince of Darkness.
Yep.
Risen from the grave.
Yep.
Taste the Blood.
Yep.
Good. It's a good one.
Yep.
There's Scars. Scars. I have these in order. So then it's Dracula. Underrated, by the way. One of the best Dracula deaths of all time at the very beginning. Wagon wheel. Satanic Rites. So those are all the Dracula movies that have Christopher Lee. But then you got fun ones like Kiss the Vampire, The Vampire Lovers, which is just softcore porn, really, and then Lust of the Vampire, and of course Countess Dracula. So lots of Hammer Dracula. I'm missing only a few of their Dracula vampire movies. Oh, and this one, of course, is Bride. So, oh, by the way, this, is Paul. He's a squishmallow Helena gave me. He is a vampire bat. Do you know why he's named Paul?
Why?
Because almost every hero in the Dracula Christopher Lee movies is Paul.
Yep. That's true. It's just like goddamn, I can't remember the character name, but like in the Hammer Frankenstein films,
Hans.
There's like Hans. Yeah, there's always a character named that. Yeah.
Seth, you're his number 4 favorite YouTuber. Congrats.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, by the way, tomorrow Werewolf Wednesday should return, right, Seth?
Yes. I was sick last week. Yep.
Yeah. There you go. Tune in tomorrow. He was sick last week. Go ahead and finish what you're saying.
Yeah, I was just I had a really nasty cold last weekend, and it lasted all week. Actually, I'm still not over it. Like, I still got quite a bit of a cough, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but my voice is a little
bit
out of whack. But
was it a cold or cold vid?
What was that?
Was it a cold or cold vid?
It was cold.
Okay. Yeah, it does look like a Sasquatch. I haven't seen that in so long, but I actually got a sneak preview to see Van Helsing back in 2004. If anybody else got to see it, me and my wife got to go see it. And we had intercourse right before in the parking lot. I see so many similarities with the Wolfman and Dracula and Van Helsing, where we see Van Helsing kill Dracula in the final battle. That's generally what happens in Dracula movies. Anyway, is there anything else you want to say about the Horror of Dracula?
No, I think I've said everything I needed to say. Again, it's like it's in my opinion, and everyone's different, but this and the 1931 film are my two favorite, are definitely my two favorite Dracula films of all time, and I'm looking forward to actually diving back into all these Hammer films, because I gotta admit right off the bat that I'm more of a fan of the Hammer Frankenstein films, so like I'm more familiar with the Hammer Frankenstein films. It's been a minute since I've seen all the sequels, because really, Horror of Dracula, Dracula Prince of Darkness, and Scars of Dracula are the three Hammer Dracula films I've seen the most. Some of the other ones I vaguely remember, so I'm kind of looking forward to diving back into them.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are, because I really enjoy like some of those middle ones, like Taste of Blood. I really like that one. They're different. They don't follow the Bram Stoker's Dracula story. They go off on their own after this movie. And this one, the Taste of Blood, I really like. Plus, the titles are great. The Taste of Blood is cool because these rich, eccentric men are looking. They're bored with their lives, and they cheat on their wives and all this other shit. And then they meet this guy who has the blood of Dracula, and they're able to resurrect the blood. And it's really cool. It's a cool movie. It's a cool concept. And it takes an atheist to stop Dracula. But yeah, I'll look forward to your ranking once you're done watching them all. Oh my god, I feel like I gotta sneeze.
I hate that
feeling.
That was like one of the things that happened to me last week. It was like I had all this sinus pressure, and like I wanted to sneeze, but I couldn't, and so it was like making my eyes water.
I hate that. Is Nosferatu coming out? so late in this year to get further away from Renfield? Yes, I'm just gonna say yes.
That's true. I didn't even consider that.
Do you like comic books, Scott? There's a comic book called the Arcane Syndicate that's on Kickstarter funding right now that you might like. It's similar to what you're talking about. I had COVID on my 42nd birthday in 2022. My girlfriend gave it to me, and it wasn't so bad. I lost my taste. I lost my ability to smell, which that sucked. But she did come over and have sex with me while I had COVID. So I was well enough to do that.
I got COVID on the weekend that Firestarter remake was being released, and I'm grateful that I got COVID, so I didn't waste my fucking time going to the movie theater, because it was also on, like, what was it, like Max or something like that, the same day, and because I had COVID, I was like, oh, fine, because I prefer going to the movies, paying for a ticket, you know. But I was like, oh, whatever, I'm gonna be sick for a week, and so I'm grateful that I got COVID.
So you didn't have to pay for
it. Yes, I fucking hated that remake.
Yeah, I didn't care for it. I ended up rewatching. I ended up rewatching the old one too, and I'm like, well, I don't like this either. So. Oddity. So check out Oddity, by the way. I watched it last night. I put it on my number 9 on my list. But,
oh yeah, that's on Shudder.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I got 25 films of the year so far, so build the momentum.
Hasn't he talked about this before?
Yeah.
Why you gotta say Seth? I love Superman too. Thanks.
I'm actually
check out She-Wolf of London.
She-Wolf of London, yeah.
I don't know. I guess people would be upset about it. Nobody see Kangaroo Jack. All right, Seth. So tomorrow you're doing Dog Soldiers. You want to give them a little spoiler of what you're going to talk about?
I'm just going to talk about the movie overall. I'm going to review it, just have a casual conversation about it, and typically speaking, the Werewolf Wednesday shows get quite a bit of comments, and I end up staying on like an hour later than I plan. So I'm just going to keep it to one movie this week and just kind of let the conversation flow. But I have a love for Dog Soldiers. I will say that. So it'll be a fun one to talk about.
And a love for dogs.
Yeah. A good boy.
Yeah, I see you did the Underworld franchise and the Wolfman as President feature recently. Sweet. Cool. We got a comment on our show. It's boring. Thanks.
What's that?
Nothing. There's a comment on our show from Return of the Living Dead. It just said boring. Thanks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh well. Don't watch. Anyway, so yeah, next week hopefully we will. I think it's Curse of Frankenstein. Is that right?
What's that?
Curse of Frankenstein next week.
I thought we were doing more of the. Well, we'll have to look at your schedule because
yeah,
I thought we were doing a bunch of the Dracula and then the
I don't
Frankenstein was
remember.
gonna be moved.
Yeah, I know Curse the Werewolf's gonna be in there for a Werewolf Wednesday episode.
Yep.
Do you
But
see
hey, if you want to talk about Curse of Frankenstein, I would absolutely love to. So,
do I see any similarities between those two movies, other than the fact they're werewolves and it's a curse? No, I don't. I'll do full videos on both. We did an American Werewolf in London, right?
Yes,
And
we did.
Paris.
Yep.
And Paris, too.
Yep. Last December, we did a full episode on American Werewolf in London, and then a full episode on American Werewolf in Paris. Yeah. So go check those out if you haven't seen those shows.
Yeah, we'll do Ginger at some point. Maybe all three of them. Yeah. So, anything else that you guys want to talk about or check out on our YouTube page, subscribe, and check us out on Facebook if you haven't. There's a lot of shit on Facebook, and we go live on Facebook, on YouTube. Subscribe, and almost every one of our conversations has spoilers. How exciting! This was the Horror of Dracula, kind of, and a lot of werewolf talk.
Hey, I'm taking over.
Yeah, as long as it's not marsupials, I'm good.
Oh my God, we should do you should join me for a special Werewolf Wednesday episode. Me and you talking about the marsupials. Do it. Come on, man. Come on. Do it. Do it.
Oh man.
Do it. Be a hero.
I think I'd rather spit in my own face. I don't ever want to watch that movie again.
It'll be a good time.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott, for joining us. Trekopedia, Sean Sheridan, anybody who watches, shout out to all you guys. And really appreciate it. Guys, those faces again. For like your costume. Do Michael Myers if you haven't done. Don't do Ghost.
Yeah.
Well, you and Seth can talk about it. All right. You guys have a great night. We'll see you next week. Seth, we'll see you tomorrow for Wednesday. I forgot I added her at the end. I didn't mean to hit that. But anyway, have a nice night.